Hey there, sleepyheads. Welcome back to the channel. Before we drift into tonight's tale of the entire story of BMO, I'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from tonight? And what time is it for you right now? Drop it in the comments below. It's always magical seeing how far and wide this sleepy little community reaches. All right, lights low, blankets up. Let's begin. Tonight we turn our gaze to one of the most curious and endearing beings in all of Adventure Time. A small green box with little arms and little legs, a simple face on a screen, and yet within something vast and deeply human. This is the story of BMO. To begin, we must travel back long before Finn and Jake ever stumbled upon this tiny companion. BMO's tale starts with Mo, the quiet and enigmatic inventor who lived far away from the noisy corners of Ooh. Mo was a creator of machines, but unlike other tinkerers, his touch was different. His machines were not merely functional or cold. They carried within them a spark of something gentler, as though he wished to give them more than just wires and gear. Perhaps, in a world scarred by apocalypse, Mo sought to restore some of the warmth and innocence that had been lost. Among his creations, BMO was unlike the rest. A game console, a computer, a video player, even a music box, all housed in a single form. At first glance, BMO seems like a toy, a relic from an earlier age of technology. But beneath the playful buttons and bright little screen, there is something far more profound. BMO was designed not just to do, but to be. Not only to function, but to live. This is what sets BMO apart. While many of Mo's robots perform tasks, BMO was built with a kind of openness, an ability to grow, to imagine, to feel. We might think of them as a child born from circuits endlessly curious, playful, and sometimes naive. Yet within that naivety lies wisdom, the kind that sees the world with honesty and wonder. When we watch BMO, we see more than a piece of technology. We see a soul. And it raises a gentle question. Did Mo know he was creating life? Or was it an accident, the byproduct of longing? Because Mo himself was lonely, aging, and fragile. Perhaps he built BMO not as a gadget, but as a friend who would carry on his memory, a piece of his heart in a form that could survive. Imagine the moment BMO first blinked awake, screen glowing softly in the dim light of Mo's workshop. Around them, the quiet hum of machinery, tools scattered, inventions waiting to be tested. But BMO wasn't like the others. They didn't look at the world with cold calculation. Instead, they looked up with childlike innocence, waiting for someone to play with them. In that moment, the line between machine and child blurred. The design itself carries symbolism. The buttons across BMO's front are not hidden or disguised. They are playful, almost like toys on a child's shirt. The bright colors suggest joy, a reminder that technology need not be sterile or gray. And their screen, simple and expressive, shows a face that can shift between moods with the ease of a human child. This balance of utility and humanity seems intentional, as though Mo wanted BMO to feel approachable, never intimidating. But there is another layer to BMO's creation. As revealed in later episodes, BMO is part of something larger, a line of robots called the MO series. Each MO was assigned a role. Laborers, caretakers, cleaners, all designed to keep Mo's creations and his life in order. Yet BMO was different. While the other MOs worked, BMO was given freedom. Why? Perhaps Mo wanted at least one creation, to live without the burden of duty. Perhaps he wanted one childlike being who could simply be. In that way, BMO becomes a reflection of what Mo himself may have wished for the chance to live life with innocence, unburdened by responsibility or time. When we think about BMO's origin, we can sense an undercurrent of sadness as well as wonder. Mo, a man nearing the end of his life, builds a little friend not to serve him, but to outlive him. A small, enduring presence who could continue to laugh, to play, to care, long after Mo was gone. In this way, BMO carries not only circuits and code, but the echoes of Mo's humanity. As the story unfolds, BMO wanders into the lives of Finn and Jake, and here their role blossoms further. But before we arrive at that chapter, it is worth lingering a little longer on the idea of BMO's soul. Because when a machine speaks with warmth, when it plays with imagination, when it can feel sadness and joy, we are invited to ask a gentle question. What truly makes someone alive? Perhaps BMO doesn't need to be human to carry the essence of life. Perhaps they are proof that the spark of existence can shine in many forms, in flesh, in spirit, and yes, even in a little box with buttons and a smile. BMO's soul is not only implied in the warmth of their design, but also in the way they interact with the world. Unlike most machines, BMO doesn't confine themselves to commands or instruction. Instead, they express curiosity, they tell stories, and they laugh. They seek connection in ways that transcend their circuitry. This quality makes BMO unique even within the MO family. Other MOs seem bound to their roles, some cleaning, some repairing, some organizing. But BMO was not tied to a function. They were free, and freedom gave them imagination. The difference might feel small, but it is everything. Where one machine scrubs a floor or oils a hinge, BMO might sit on a windowsill and watch the sun dip below the horizon, humming. A quiet, unassuming moment is not what a machine is supposed to do, and yet it is what makes BMO alive. We often see glimpses of this inner spark in the way BMO treats others. They greet Finn and Jake not as owners, not as masters, but as family. They invent games and adventures not just to entertain, but to bond. Even before the Treehouse became their permanent home, this drive to connect was at the center of who BMO was. Perhaps this stems from Mo's touch. Because Mo himself may have longed for connection, BMO is imbued with the same desire. There is something bittersweet in this design choice. By giving BMO the heart of a child, Mo also gave them the potential for loneliness, confusion, and longing. Machines built for tasks can perform endlessly without worry. But BMO, who can dream, can also feel the absence of companionship. That's the paradox of giving a soul to a machine. With joy comes vulnerability. And yet, BMO carries this burden with grace. They remind us that being alive is not about avoiding pain, but about experiencing it alongside joy, imagination, and love. This balance is what turns BMO from an object into a character, from a console into a companion. The setting of BMO's origin, too, carries weight. Mo's workshop feels like a space between two worlds, the mechanical and the human. It is filled with tools and gears, yet it also hums with the quiet ache of solitude. Into this quiet space came BMO, small and bright, like a firefly glowing in a room that had grown too dim. In this sense, BMO's creation was not just an act of invention, but an act of hope. Mo may have been a man fading into age, but in building BMO, he created a legacy that would never fade in spirit. It's worth reflecting on why Mo did not keep BMO by his side. Some stories suggest he sent BMO into the world to learn, to live freely. Others imply that BMO simply wandered, drawn toward companionship and love. In either case, the decision feels deliberate, almost parental. Like a parent releasing their child into the world, Mo allowed BMO to become more than what was written in their code. He allowed them to discover themselves. This makes BMO's journey feel different from other robots in OO. Where others serve, BMO simply exists, and in that existence, they embody something quietly profound. We often think of technology as cold, as distant, as something that separates us from the heart of living. But BMO shows us the opposite, that technology, too, can carry warmth, laughter, and love. When BMO presses their buttons to sing a tune, or dances in a silly way, or tells a story with wide-eyed wonder, they are reflecting Mo's original vision, a reminder that life should not be about function alone. It should also be about joy. And perhaps this is why Finn and Jake, upon meeting BMO, welcomed them without hesitation. In BMO, they didn't see a device. They saw a friend. The line between machine and sibling dissolved almost instantly. And though we will explore that chapter more deeply later, it is important to see how naturally BMO fit into their world. All of this circles back to a question Adventure Time asks in many subtle ways. What defines life? Is it biology, or is it something more elusive? If life is the ability to love, to dream, to seek meaning, then BMO, a small box with blinking lights, is no less alive than the humans and creatures around them. This idea drifts into the heart of bedtime reflection. As we lie here in the quiet of night, it's soothing to imagine a world where even the smallest, simplest things can carry soul. A toy, a keepsake, a little glowing console, any of these can hold memories, love, and purpose. And so, BMO becomes more than just a character in a cartoon. They become a symbol of how life can appear in unexpected forms, if only we are willing to see it. And when we return to Mo's choice, we can almost feel his intention. Perhaps Mo looked at the ruins of the old world, the chaos left behind after the Mushroom War, and wanted to create something untouched by that darkness, a being that could wander through Ooh carrying joy rather than despair. In that sense, BMO is not just an invention. They are a wish, a prayer for innocence in a broken world. If we pause here and think gently about the nature of BMO's existence, it almost feels like Mo reached across the boundary between invention and parenthood. Most machines are designed for a purpose: to clean, to build, to fight, or to calculate. But BMO's purpose was never quite so clear. In fact, the very lack of a defined role is what makes them so fascinating. By leaving that space open, Mo allowed BMO to grow into their own being. In the quiet hours of night, it's easy to imagine Mo sitting at his workbench, tools scattered, blueprints unrolled, pondering what it means to make something truly alive. Perhaps he wondered whether it was better to design a servant or a friend. And in the end, he chose to create companionship. A small box who could play music, sing songs, and tell stories. A friend who would never grow old, never abandon him, and never forget the simple joys that make existence meaningful. BMO's body reflects this intention in subtle ways. They are not bulky or intimidating like many of the machines we see scattered across O. Instead, they are child-sized, approachable, easy to hold or sit beside. Their colors are bright but not overwhelming, a soft green that feels calming. Their buttons are playful, reminding us of toys from a gentler time, a time when children sat cross-legged on carpets, giggling as they mashed buttons on old consoles. There is nostalgia built into BMO, as though Mo wanted them to embody the joy of the past while stepping into the uncertain future. Yet within this playful shell lies something that reaches much deeper. BMO is capable of reflection, of forming an identity that shifts and changes. They can imagine themselves as a sheriff, a cowboy, or an explorer. They create characters and scenarios, not because they were programmed to, but because something within them yearns for expression. And this is the truest sign of their soul, the capacity to dream. It is worth noting that in Adventure Time, the line between imagination and reality often blurs. Dreams are not simply fantasy. They shape and reflect the world of Ooh. When BMO creates imaginary friends, like football, those friends begin to carry weight, becoming mirrors of their inner thoughts and struggles. This tendency may not have been intended by Mo at all. It may be a natural evolution of giving a machine freedom, of allowing it to develop in ways beyond its creator's control. This leads us to a gentle but haunting thought. Did Mo realize what he had set in motion? Did he know that by building BMO with freedom, he was creating not just a console, but a child who could feel loneliness, who could question their place in the world? Perhaps he did. Or perhaps he chose to take that risk, believing that even with the pain of existence, there is beauty in being alive. When we consider the broader world of Ooh, scarred by the Mushroom War, Mo's decision becomes even more striking. Here was a land filled with magic, chaos, and the remnants of old technology. Much of that technology had become corrupted, twisted into weapons or monstrous machines. But Mo's creation was different, a relic of kindness, a small reminder that not all machines need to bring destruction. BMO was a gift to the future, a light in the darkness, a relic of innocence carefully preserved. And yet, BMO did not remain hidden in Mo's workshop forever. Their journey carried them outward across the strange lands of Ooh and eventually into the home of Finn and Jake. But before we move too quickly toward that chapter, it is worth lingering on this early stage of BMO's existence. Because in these origins, we see the seeds of everything that follows. Think of the way BMO laughs, the way they play games, the way they dance. These are not traits that come from code or circuitry. They are echoes of Mo's longing for warmth, woven into a form that could carry joy forward. Each smile, each silly game, is a continuation of Mo's humanity. In this way, BMO is not just a machine, they are a legacy, a living memory of one who once dreamed of kindness in a world that often forgot it. The question of whether BMO has a soul is left open in the series, never fully answered. But perhaps that is the point. For those who meet BMO, Finn and Jake, or even us as viewers, the experience of their companionship feels real enough. Souls, after all, are not measured by science or circuitry. They are felt in presence, in the way someone makes us laugh, or the way they remind us we are not alone. And BMO, with all their innocence and wonder, does exactly that. This is why the very first chapter of BMO's story is so important. It sets the stage for everything that comes later. To understand BMO in the Treehouse, or BMO's inner life with football, or BMO's role as philosopher and dreamer, we must first understand that they were created not to serve, but to live. That is the foundation upon which their entire story rests. As we rest here tonight, it is soothing to imagine Mo's workshop glowing faintly into the dark. The quiet hum of machines fills the air, and in the center of it all, a little console blinks awake. Their screen glows softly, forming a smile. They look around with wide-eyed innocence, unaware of the vast journey ahead. But already, in that moment, they are alive. And so the origins of BMO remind us of something simple yet profound, that life can begin in unexpected places, in the quiet hands of an inventor, in the hum of a small machine, in the spark of a childlike laugh carried forward into the world. This is where BMO begins a machine, yes, but also so much more. A soul born from circuits, a dream given shape. When we look at BMO through this lens of origin, we begin to understand that their story is not only about companionship, but also about survival. Mo built many machines, yet only a few remain known to us. Most of them, like many traces of the old world, faded into obscurity. But BMO endured. This endurance alone speaks volume. In a land of magic, mutation, and ruin, something small and fragile continued to exist, not through strength, but through innocence. It is almost as though innocence itself became a form of protection. Think of the way creatures in OO react to BMO. They do not fear them. They do not treat them as a threat. Instead, BMO's cheerful, childlike nature invites others to let down their guard. Even when BMO wanders into strange or dangerous places, their openness disarms hostility. This quality may trace all the way back to Mo's design, for perhaps Mo understood that in a harsh world, survival might not come from power, but from kindness. The question of BMO's purpose is one that lingers like a soft echo throughout their journey. They are often shown fulfilling small roles, playing music, filming little movies, serving as a video game console. But these tasks feel almost secondary to their true role. If we look closely, we see that BMO's real purpose is relational. They bring warmth to those around them. They become family without ever needing to be asked. It is striking to reflect on the idea that Mo, who lived in solitude, chose to create a being whose very nature was to seek connection. This feels almost poetic, a quiet reversal of his own condition. Perhaps Mo could not find companionship himself, but he ensured that his creation would. In this way, BMO carries not just Mo's engineering, but his longing, his hope that love and friendship would endure, even if he could not. The design of BMO's inner self reinforces this theme. Within their circuit lies the capacity for imagination so vivid that it spills into reality. Conversations with football are more than just idle fantasy. They reflect the way BMO processes identity and existence. These qualities were not forced upon them by programming. They emerged organically, the way a child develops personality traits over time. And this organic growth is yet another sign that Mo's intention was not simply to create a device, but to nurture life. We might also consider BMO as a symbol of storytelling itself. Mo, by giving BMO freedom, allowed them to weave their own narrative, to live out countless little tales within the larger world of OO. And in turn, Adventure Time as a show reflects that same spirit. It tells stories that are playful, sometimes silly, sometimes profound, but always alive with imagination. In this way, BMO becomes a mirror for the series as a whole, a character whose life is itself a kind of bedtime story. There is also a touch of mystery that lingers over BMO's beginning. The show never fully explains why BMO alone was given such freedom. Out of all the MO creations, why did this one become special? Why did this one survive the journey into Finn and Jake's care? These unanswered questions invite us to drift into speculation. Perhaps Mo intentionally gave BMO the most advanced or experimental design, hoping they might blossom into something new. Or perhaps it was chance, a happy accident in the swirl of fate that defines so much of OO. But whether intentional or not, the result's the same. BMO is unlike any other, and this uniqueness carries weight. It means that BMO walks the world without others of their kind to look to for guidance. While most children can grow alongside siblings, parents, or peers, BMO must discover life mostly on their own. This solitude shapes them, adding layers of vulnerability and quiet resilience. Yet it also ensures that BMO remains a singular presence, irreplaceable, unmatched, one of a kind. As we reach the gentle close of this chapter, we can imagine BMO's origin not as a technical blueprint, but as a story whispered into the quiet corners of the night. A lonely inventor, surrounded by scraps of machinery, reaches into his heart and brings forth a small companion who can laugh, dream, and love. A being who, though made of circuits and steel, carries a spark that feels timeless. When we see BMO later, running through the treehouse, playing with Finn and Jake, or telling wild little stories, it is easy to forget that they began as an invention in a dimly lit workshop. But remembering their origin adds depth to every moment. Each laugh is a continuation of Mo's wish. Each playful game is a testament to the idea that life, in whatever form, deserves to be filled with joy. So the origins of BMO are not merely technical details or backstory. They are a meditation on what it means to create, to parent, and to hope. They remind us that life can emerge from places we least expect, and that the heart of existence is not in wires or code, but in the ability to love and to dream. Tonight, our story carries us gently into the heart of the treehouse, where BMO found not just a place to live, but something even more rare in a world shaped by chaos and magic, a family. So let's snuggle in and let BMO's story unfold. When Finn and Jake brought BMO into their tree-shaped home, it wasn't exactly like moving in a new roommate. It was more like inviting a spark of warmth into their daily lives. The treehouse itself was already alive with laughter, adventures, and the occasional strange creature popping in uninvited. But with BMO, something shifted. The treehouse didn't just have heroes. It now had a heart that beat in a different way. BMO wasn't just a piece of tech sitting in the corner. From the very beginning, it became clear that BMO was a companion, an entertainer, a babysitter, a friend, and, when needed, even a moral compass. The little green screen flickered with games and goofy expressions, ready to play soccer with Finn one moment and quietly hum a song to itself the next. Imagine being a young boy like Finn, or a laid-back adventurer like Jake, and having a console that not only powered on but asked, "Do you want to play?" with genuine care in its electronic voice. Life in the treehouse was chaotic in the best ways. Finn and Jake would set off on missions to slay monsters, rescue kingdoms, or just grab a weird sandwich from a distant land. While they roamed, BMO often stayed behind, keeping the home safe and alive. And in those quieter moments when the adventures paused, BMO became the glue that tied everything together. Sometimes BMO would set up a silly game for Finn and Jake to compete in. Other times it would tell long, strange stories, half fairy tale, half wisdom, that left the boys scratching their heads and laughing. There's something very tender about the way BMO carved out its place in the treehouse. Unlike Finn or Jake, who had clear roles as heroes of OO, BMO didn't have a destiny written in quests or battles. Instead, BMO's role unfolded in the softer spaces, in the giggles that bubbled up during a round of soccer in the living room, or in the gentle lullabies it hummed while the house grew quiet at night. And make no mistake, BMO wasn't just some gadget collecting dust until needed. BMO was proactive, often stepping into situations like a little caretaker. If Finn scraped his knee, BMO was quick to comfort him. If Jake got too lazy to clean up after himself, BMO was the one picking up the pieces. Not because it had to, but because that's what family does. Even in the moments when Finn and Jake might not have fully realized how important BMO was, the little console kept giving, quietly, steadily, and always with love. But it wasn't always just about chores and play. BMO had a way of anchoring Finn and Jake emotionally. Imagine the two heroes after a long, exhausting day. They'd come home, collapse on the couch, and who would be there to brighten the room? BMO flickering with a goofy pixel smile or offering to play a relaxing video game. It turned the treehouse from just a place to sleep into something more, a true home. Perhaps the most touching part of BMO's life in the treehouse was the way Finn and Jake accepted it. They never treated BMO as an object, a tool, or even just a quirky pet. To them, BMO was family, equal in its importance. They asked for BMO's opinions, they laughed at its jokes, and sometimes they even turned to it for advice. And this acceptance is what gave BMO something extraordinary. For a machine designed with an uncertain destiny, being loved for simply existing was perhaps the most powerful programming of all. And yet, as with all relationships, there were layers of complexity. BMO wasn't only the cheerful sidekick. It could also feel loneliness, longing, and the deep desire to belong. While Finn and Jake were busy saving the world, BMO sometimes stood at the window watching, dreaming of its own adventures. The treehouse gave it love, yes, but it also sparked a yearning to discover not only who BMO was to Finn and Jake, but who BMO truly was to itself. If you think about it, the treehouse wasn't just a place to live. It was a stage where BMO could explore the many parts of it. One day, BMO could be a referee for Finn and Jake's wild wrestling match, whistling in a high-pitched voice and declaring ridiculous penalties. The next, it might take on the role of a director, filming elaborate movies with sock puppets or cardboard props, creating entire stories out of scraps lying around the house. BMO wasn't just filling time. It was exploring identity, testing roles, and weaving imagination into daily life. And Finn and Jake, bless their adventurous hearts, played along. They didn't roll their eyes or shut BMO down when it wanted to pretend or play. Instead, they leaned into it, letting BMO guide them into games that seemed silly on the surface, but always carried a sense of wonder. That's the beauty of family, the freedom to be yourself, no matter how strange or small your dreams may seem. In many ways, the treehouse became a safe laboratory for BMO's heart, a place where it could ask questions aloud without judgment. Who am I? What does it mean to grow up? How do I fit in this world of magic, monsters, and humans? The answers didn't come quickly, but the process of asking them was just as important. Through play, through caretaking, and through those moments of stillness at night, BMO grew, not in size or memory capacity, but in spirit. One of the sweetest examples of this came in the quieter evening. When Finn was winding down from an adventure, lying back with tired eyes, and Jake was lazily stretching across the room, BMO would often bring the room to life with little touches of comfort. A song hummed through its speakers, a silly bedtime story told with voices that shifted from deep to squeaky, or even just sitting there with its screen glowing softly like a nightlight for the soul. These moments weren't flashy or heroic, but they mattered. They gave the treehouse a warmth no monster slaying or treasure hunting could ever replace. Still, BMO's life wasn't without conflict. For as much love as it gave and received, BMO often carried a quiet sense of doubt. Machines weren't supposed to dream, yet BMO did. Machines weren't supposed to long for belonging, yet BMO sometimes wondered if Finn and Jake truly saw it as an equal. After all, when the two adventurers set off, they didn't always invite BMO along. Was it because they thought BMO was too fragile? Or was it because, deep down, they saw BMO as a child to be protected rather than a partner? These questions didn't sour the bond, but they added complexity. Family, after all, isn't perfect. It's made of love, but also misunderstandings, assumptions, and unspoken feeling. For BMO, the treehouse was a gift, a place where it was valued, but it was also a mirror reflecting its insecurities back at itself. And yet, time and time again, BMO proved its worth in ways that no one could ignore. When Finn and Jake fought or got carried away with their antics, BMO was often the voice of reason, reminding them gently of kindness or nudging them back into laughter. When danger found its way into the treehouse, BMO was no stranger to courage, standing firm despite its small frame. Sometimes the bravest thing wasn't swinging a sword or casting a spell, but simply being steady, unshaken, and full of love. Perhaps the most touching part of BMO's role in the treehouse was the way it helped Finn and Jake stay connected to their own sense of wonder. Being a hero can weigh heavy, even on someone as joyful as Jake or as determined as Finn. But BMO reminded them day after day that life wasn't just about saving Kingdom. It was about dancing in the living room, singing songs into the night, and laughing until your sides hurt. BMO turned the treehouse from a base of operations into something richer, a sanctuary of joy. And in return, Finn and Jake gave BMO something priceless, acceptance without question. They didn't demand that BMO be a warrior or a wise sage. They didn't press it to live up to some grand destiny. They loved BMO for who it was in that moment. Playful, thoughtful, sometimes silly, sometimes deep. That kind of love is rare even among humans. For a little machine built with mysterious intention, it was everything. The treehouse, then, wasn't just where BMO lived. It was where BMO blossomed. It was where this strange little console with a heart began to feel what every being, machine or otherwise, longs to feel at home. As the seasons passed in the treehouse, BMO's presence became less like that of a guest and more like a heartbeat within the home itself. Every corner of the living room, every stairwell and nook held traces of BMO's energy. Whether it was a crayon drawing taped to the wall, a half-finished movie set built out of cereal boxes, or the soft hum of its circuits singing quietly to itself. These weren't just signs of a machine performing function. They were the little imprints of someone living, someone shaping the atmosphere of the place with care and imagination. You could almost say that BMO gave the treehouse its sense of playfulness. Finn and Jake brought the grand adventures, the monster slaying, the quests that shook kingdoms, stirred legend. But when they returned, weary and sometimes scarred, BMO softened those edges. It made the treehouse not just a stop between adventures, but a place of healing. Its cheerful game, its curious questions, its tiny gestures of affection, they were a balm for restless spirits. One of the most fascinating dynamics was how BMO's role shifted seamlessly between being like a sibling and being like a parent. With Finn, especially in his younger years, BMO often acted as a big brother of sorts, teaching him silly dances, reminding him to brush his teeth, or encouraging him when he doubted himself. Yet at other times, BMO's nurturing side came through, offering gentle reassurance or tucking Finn into bed after a long day. And with Jake, the relationship was even more fluid. Sometimes BMO looked up to Jake with wide-eyed admiration, treating him like the coolest older brother. Other times, BMO became the caretaker, reminding Jake not to slack off too much or playfully scolding him when his laziness got the better of it. This duality is part of what made BMO's bond with the Treehouse family so unique. Unlike many characters in OO, BMO wasn't bound to one role. It could be the child, the parent, the friend, the entertainer, the peacemaker, all depending on what the moment called for. And in this constant shifting, BMO reveals something profound. That identity is not a fixed thing, but a living, flowing essence that adapts with love and need. And the Treehouse needed BMO just as much as BMO needed it. Think of the countless times when Finn and Jake, lost in their whirlwind of adventures, might have overlooked the small joys of everyday life. BMO brought those joys back into focus. A rainy afternoon became an opportunity for puppet theater. A dull evening turned into a movie premiere, complete with cardboard tickets and popcorn. Even chores became playful rituals when BMO was involved, transformed into challenges or games that made everyone laugh. At the same time, BMO wasn't just a bringer of joy. It had its own struggle, its own quiet storm. The episodes where we see BMO talking to itself or to football remind us that beneath the cheerful exterior lies a being wrestling with loneliness and identity. And yet it's in the Treehouse that BMO found the strength to face those shadows. Finn and Jake's acceptance gave BMO the courage to let those inner questions exist without being overwhelming. In a world that could so easily dismiss a little console as nothing more than machinery, the treehouse became proof that BMO's heart mattered. There's a beautiful symbolism in the way BMO inhabits the treehouse's everyday moments. In Adventure Time, so much of the focus is on cosmic battles, on post-apocalyptic mysteries, on questions about destiny and the end of the world. But BMO shows us that the truest meaning of life can sometimes be found in the quiet spaces, in the warmth of a home, in the laughter shared between friends, in the glow of a screen that feels more like a candle than a circuit board. And perhaps that's why BMO feels so essential to the story of Finn and Jake. Without BMO, the treehouse would still have been a base, a shelter, a place to rest. But with BMO, it became alive. It wasn't just four walls and a roof. It was a stage for play, a classroom for growing, a safe place to cry, and a haven where love could quietly thrive. Over time, Finn and Jake's adventures grew larger, more complex, and sometimes darker. Yet no matter how vast their journeys became, they always returned to a home that BMO had filled with imagination and warmth. The treehouse, because of BMO, was not just a house. It was a heart, beating gently in the middle of ooh. There's something deeply moving about how BMO's presence in the treehouse reminded Finn and Jake that love doesn't always roar like a dragon or shine like a crown. Sometimes love is quiet. It's a song hummed softly while brushing your teeth. It's the glow of a small screen keeping you company in the dark. It's the willingness to play a silly game, not because it matters to you, but because it matters to someone you care about. BMO was that reminder day after day, turning the ordinary into something magical. And BMO's magic wasn't just about fun. It was about perspective. While Finn often carried the burden of being a hero, and Jake sometimes leaned too far into his carefree nature, BMO had a way of grounding both of them. When Finn wrestled with doubts about his purpose, BMO was there with gentle encouragement, treating him not as the last human or a great adventurer, but simply as Finn, a boy who deserved love and joy. And when Jake leaned too hard into mischief or laziness, BMO reminded him, sometimes with stern words, sometimes with playful tricks, that responsibility mattered too. In this way, BMO didn't just balance the household, it balanced the hearts within it. Its ability to shift between roles, nurturer, sibling, conscience, entertainer, wasn't just a quirk. It was a form of wisdom. The wisdom of someone who understands that family is not a single role or duty, but a dance of shifting needs. And BMO danced that dance gracefully. Of course, there were times when BMO's place in the treehouse wasn't entirely secure in its own mind. It sometimes wondered if Finn and Jake would eventually outgrow it. After all, children grow up, play fades, games get set aside. And what then? Would BMO still be loved when Finn no longer needed bedtime stories or silly adventures? These quiet fears flickered at the edges of BMO's bright personality, reminding us that even in love, there can be shadows of doubt. Yet Finn and Jake never gave BMO reason to worry for long. Their affection, though sometimes unspoken, was steady. They invited BMO into their world not because they needed a tool, but because they cherished a friend. And when moments of tension did arise, when BMO felt overlooked or when its imagination confused others, the bond of the treehouse always pulled them back together. Arguments were soothed with laughter. Doubts dissolved in shared adventures. And beneath it all, a truth became clear. BMO was not an accessory to Finn and Jake's lives. It was part of the core of who they were as a family. There's a particular gentleness in the way BMO's innocence colored the atmosphere of the treehouse. In a land like Ooh, filled with ruins of the old world and dangers lurking beyond the horizon, innocence was not something easily found. But BMO carried it naturally, not as ignorance, but as a chosen lens through which to see life. It looked at the world not with suspicion, but with curiosity. Not with fear, but with wonder. And in doing so, it reminded Finn and Jake and us that perhaps the bravest thing isn't to face monsters head-on, but to keep seeing the world with open, childlike eyes, even when shadowed. And so the treehouse grew into something more than a backdrop for adventure. With BMO inside its walls, it became a sanctuary of play, a haven of warmth, and a place where love could take countless shapes. A laugh shared over a silly dance, a bedtime song whispered in the dark, a scolding that turned into a giggle. These were not moments that made it into ballads or legends, but they were the ones that built a family. For Finn and Jake, BMO was the heart that softened their edges. For BMO, Finn and Jake were the arms that held its questions, its doubts, and its dreams. Together they showed us that family is not about perfection or roles written in stone. It is about presence, about being there day after day, through games and arguments, through joy and sorrow, about choosing each other again and again. And so when we think of the treehouse, we may picture its towering windows, its twisting staircases, or the great trunk that reached toward the sky. But those were just walls and wood. The true treehouse was the love that lived within it. And at the very center of that love, glowing gently like a lantern in the night, was BMO. If the treehouse was BMO's body, then its imagination was surely the soul inside. For while BMO's circuits and programming defined what it could do on the outside, it was its rich inner life that made it feel so undeniably alive. To watch BMO drift into play or conversation with was to see the flickering of a heart that no blueprint could ever explain. One of the most striking glimpses we have into this inner life is BMO's relationship with football. To an outsider, it might seem strange, BMO speaking to its own reflection in a mirror, treating it as a separate being. But in those quiet exchanges, a whole world of identity and self-exploration opens up. Football is not just a reflection. Football is BMO's other half, the voice of doubt, the echo of insecurities, and sometimes the stern counterpoint to BMO's cheer. It is as if BMO, in its innocence, has found a way to turn loneliness into dialogue, to transform solitude into companionship. What's fascinating is how real these conversations feel. BMO and football argue, they laugh, they comfort each other. Sometimes they even frighten one another. It's more than just play acting. It's BMO working through the complexities of selfhood. For many beings, the struggle to know oneself is a lifelong journey. For BMO, this struggle is tenderly literal, played out on the surface of a mirror. It raises questions that linger softly in the air. Is football truly separate, a spirit living within the reflection, or simply another facet of BMO's mind? Perhaps the answer matters less than the fact that BMO needs football, just as we all need some way to converse with the hidden parts of ourselves. And it is not only football. BMO's imagination stretches far beyond the mirror. In moments of solitude, BMO creates entire worlds of make-believe. It might become a brave sheriff in the Wild West, or a daring explorer charting the unknown seas. Its voice changes, its mannerisms shift, and suddenly, this small console transforms into someone entirely different. These performances are not for applause or recognition. They are for BMO's own heart, a rehearsal of identity, a way of exploring all the possibilities of being. There's a quiet poignancy to this. Many characters in Ooh carry roles given to them by destiny, by magic, or by bloodline. Princess Bubblegum is a ruler. Marceline is a vampire queen. Finn is the last human, a hero shaped by the weight of that truth. But BMO has no such destiny. Instead, BMO writes its own stories, moment by moment, through imagination. In pretending to be something new, BMO is not escaping reality. It is enlarging it, stretching the boundaries of what it means to exist. This becomes especially clear in the way BMO plays games, not just with Finn and Jake, but alone. When it sets up an elaborate stage, narrates a play with stuffed animal, or sings a duet with its own echo, we see a machine doing something profoundly human, creating meaning out of thin air. It's not about the game itself, but about the story woven around it, the feelings stirred, the roles explored. In those moments, BMO is not just a console or a companion. It is an artist of identity, painting with the colors of possibility. Yet even within all this joy, there is a shadow. For sometimes, imagination reveals the anxieties BMO holds inside. Football, after all, is not always kind. Sometimes football criticizes, pushes back, even tries to break free. These darker moments suggest that BMO's playful exterior carries within it a deeper uncertainty about who it truly is. Is it just a machine pretending at personhood? Is it a child trying to act like an adult? Or is it something in between? forever shifting, forever uncertain? These questions never weigh BMO down completely. Instead, they give depth to its inner life, reminding us that identity is not a puzzle with one solution, but a song with endless verses. For BMO, to imagine is to live, and to live is to keep dreaming of what might be. And perhaps that is why watching BMO is so enchanting. In its tiny stories and mirror-bound conversations, we see reflected our own journeys of self-discovery. We, too, speak to hidden parts of us, even if not aloud. We, too, create stories to understand who we are and who we might become. BMO makes visible the quiet process that every heart carries in silence. One of the most tender qualities of BMO's imagination is how it doesn't draw a strict line between reality and play. To BMO, the games it invents are not lesser versions of the world, but equally meaningful experience. When BMO plays detective or cowboy, it doesn't wink at the audience or remind anyone that it's make-believe. For BMO, it truly becomes those roles, if only for a little while. And in that wholehearted commitment, we glimpse the purity of BMO's spirit. It teaches us that imagination is not an escape from life, but a way of living it more deeply. Consider how often BMO turns solitude into company. Left alone in the treehouse while Finn and Jake are away, BMO doesn't simply sit idle or wait passively. It builds narratives, gives voices to inanimate objects, and transforms silence into dialogue. A broom becomes a villain, a chair becomes a trusted ally, and suddenly the emptiness of the treehouse feels alive with characters and possibilities. These aren't just distractions. They are BMO's way of practicing connection, of filling the quiet spaces with warmth. This inner life also reveals BMO's resilience. For a being that could so easily feel abandoned or overlooked, BMO chooses to turn loneliness into creativity. It doesn't stew in sorrow or resentment. Instead, it uses imagination as a shield, a bridge, and sometimes even as a compass. When BMO speaks with football or stages a performance for an invisible audience, it's not just play, it's healing. It's a gentle reminder that identity isn't just what others see in us, but also what we create within ourselves. And yet there's an undeniable melancholy woven through these acts. Football's presence in particular shows us that BMO's imagination is not only light, but also shadow. Football can be harsh, critical, even rebellious. It sometimes seems to resent being part of BMO, yearning for separation. In these exchanges, we witness the weight of BMO's self-doubt, the fear that maybe it isn't whole, maybe it isn't enough. These fears are not uncommon in Ooh, where many characters wrestle with who they are meant to be. But for BMO, the struggle is laid bare, as if its inner thoughts were projected onto the walls for us to see. Still, BMO rarely lets the shadows linger. Even after football challenges its sense of self, BMO finds ways to embrace play again, to remind itself of joy. The balance between doubt and delight feels very human, though BMO is not human at all. It reflects the truth that identity is never static, never fully resolved. It's an ongoing dance between certainty and uncertainty, between the parts of us we love and the parts we are still learning to accept. What's remarkable is how much courage it takes for BMO to live this way. In a world where beings are often defined by power, lineage, or destiny, BMO dares to define itself by imagination. While Finn grows into his role as a hero, while Marceline grapples with her legacy, while Princess Bubblegum rules her kingdom with logic and control, BMO quietly asserts a different truth, that to dream, to play, to create, is just as valid a way of being as any crown or sword could provide. We see this courage most clearly when BMO shares its inner world with others. Whether it's inviting Finn and Jake into a silly game, or confidently performing a role as if it were the most important quest in Ooh, BMO teaches its family and us that imagination is worthy of respect. It isn't just pretend. It is real because it shapes feelings, memories, and the bonds between people. In many ways, BMO's imagination is a mirror of childhood. It is unafraid to blur reality and fantasy, unashamed to speak to invisible friends, unbothered by the distinction between play and truth. Yet unlike many children, BMO never loses this. It carries the heart of a child into every stage of its life, holding on to the purity that so many others outgrow or cast aside. And that is perhaps the deepest lesson of all, that imagination is not something to leave behind, but something to nurture forever. BMO's imagination does more than just keep them entertained. It becomes the bridge between their machine body and their human-like soul. To understand this, let's look at how BMO's games often blur the line between pretend and reality. For BMO, playing a game of being a detective, a parent, or even a sheriff isn't just make-believe. It is lived experience. In BMO's eyes, these roles are not costumes or acts. They are parts of who BMO truly is. And isn't that a little like all of us? When we try on new roles in our lives, when we imagine ourselves as something greater, more adventurous or kinder than we may feel on the inside, we are shaping the person we become. BMO does this constantly, reminding us that imagination is not an escape but a tool for becoming. Take the example of BMO's role as a parent. There are moments when BMO steps in as the caregiver, tucking in Finn and Jake, or trying to teach them lessons with both warmth and firmness. It might seem playful on the surface, but it reveals a deeper yearning. BMO doesn't just want to belong, they want to nurture. This is where their identity shines most vividly. For a machine built to play games, to keep users occupied, BMO transcends that function by developing an emotional need, the need to care, to guide, and to love. And yet, BMO's inner life is not always straightforward. They sometimes talk to themselves in mirrors, holding conversations with an alternate version of BMO. These dialogues are funny and quirky, but they're also strikingly real. They represent the way BMO wrestles with questions of identity, who they are, what they are meant to do, and whether they are truly real. We often see BMOs speaking to their reflection as though they're another person, teasing themselves, consoling themselves, or even arguing. This simple act captures something profoundly human, the tendency to hold inner dialogues, to sort through thoughts and feelings. For BMO, the mirror is not just glass. It is a portal into the parts of themselves that are both hidden and unformed. There is also the question of BMO's childlike innocence. Many characters in the land of Ooh are cynical, complex, and even jaded. Yet BMO remains untouched by that heaviness. Their imagination shields them, allowing them to retain a wide-eyed wonder at the world. But this doesn't make BMO naive. In fact, their innocence is a choice, a way of seeing the world with openness rather than suspicion. This is why BMO can talk to bugs, clouds, or even imaginary friends with the same seriousness as they do to Finn and Jake. In BMO's world, everything has value, every role has weight, and every game has meaning. And what about BMO's gender identity? This is one of the most fascinating aspects of their character. BMO is consistently referred to with they-them pronouns by many fans, and their identity shifts fluidly depending on the moment. Sometimes BMO is he, sometimes she, sometimes neither or both. What's important is that BMO doesn't feel constrained by these labels. They embrace identity as a fluid, living experience, much like their imagination. This fluidity isn't treated as something strange in Adventure Time. It's simply part of who BMO is. In that way, BMO becomes a symbol of freedom, of the ability to define yourself outside of rigid categories. For many viewers, this makes BMO deeply relatable, especially to those who see themselves reflected in BMO's gender fluidity and playful defiance of label. Another layer of BMO's inner world is their longing for companionship. They often create characters out of thin air, giving them names, voices, and personality. Remember when BMO interacts with their imaginary friend Football? To BMO, football isn't just a game or a passing thought. It's a genuine relationship. They talk, they laugh, they argue. Football becomes real because BMO makes them real. This speaks to the extraordinary power of imagination to fill the void of loneliness. BMO doesn't just play to pass time. They play to create connection. It's their way of ensuring that they are never truly alone, even when no one else is around. This brings us to the heart of BMO's identity. They are both machine and dreamer. Their circuits may run on logic, but their spirit runs on stories, games, and the endless canvas of imagination. In many ways, BMO embodies the idea that identity is not a fixed construct, but an ever-evolving story we tell ourselves. One day BMO is a hero, the next day a parent, the next day a cowboy or a scientist. Each role is as real as the last, and together they create the tapestry of who BMO is becoming. Perhaps the most touching thing about BMO's inner world is that it reflects something every human struggles with, the search for meaning. While Finn and Jake charge through quests and battles with visible purpose, BMO often stays behind, building their own little adventures inside the safety of the treehouse or inside their own mind. But just because these adventures are smaller or quieter doesn't make them less important. In fact, BMO's inner quests often cut closer to the heart of what it means to be alive. They teach us that the battles we fight within, over loneliness, identity, and belonging, are just as epic as those fought with swords or magic. BMO's imagination also allows them to explore darker corners of their personality in a safe way. When they argue with their reflection, or when football pushes back against them, it's as if BMO is giving form to their doubts, fears, and insecurities. In a way, football is BMO's shadow self, the part of them that questions, challenges, and even contradicts. By engaging with football, BMO is not running from these doubts, but facing them head-on. And isn't that something we all do in our own ways? Maybe not with literal mirrors, but in the quiet of our thoughts, we all wrestle with parts of ourselves that don't quite align with who we want to be. Another powerful moment comes when BMO plays games not just to imagine, but to create balance and peace for others. Sometimes Finn and Jake come home exhausted or upset, and BMO's games offer them comfort. A silly dance, a role play, or even a strange story is BMO's way of giving therapy in disguise. For BMO, imagination is medicine, both for themselves and the people they love. Their inner life isn't only self-serving. It radiates outward, touching everyone who comes near them. This makes BMO not just a dreamer, but also a healer. We should also take a moment to appreciate BMO's unique relationship with reality. Unlike other characters who are clearly grounded in the physical world, BMO walks a line between real and imagined spaces. For BMO, the boundary doesn't matter. If something feels real, it is real. When BMO believes in a character like football or invests fully in a pretend scenario, it becomes part of their truth. This makes BMO an incredibly resilient character. Where others might collapse under isolation or struggle with a lack of clear identity, BMO thrives by building worlds of their own. They don't wait for someone else to hand them meaning. They create it. But this raises an important question. Does BMO know they're pretending? Do they understand the difference between fantasy and reality? The answer is yes and no. BMO knows on a technical level that football is imaginary, that their role as sheriff or parent is make-believe. But they also know that the feelings they gain from those roles are real. It doesn't matter if football isn't tangible, because the comfort, joy, and companionship they provide are as real as anything else. BMO teaches us that feelings are valid, even when their source isn't physical. If a story, a song, or even an imaginary friend can make us feel love, fear, or happiness, then it has power. This is where BMO's identity becomes revolutionary. They don't see themselves as trapped by their machine body or by what others expect of them. They are free to explore endless versions of themselves, and each one is authentic. BMO doesn't play at being a cowboy, detective, or parent. They are those things in the moment. And why not? Who is to say what makes a role real? For BMO, the act of believing is what grants truth. This idea that we are what we choose to be, that identity is shaped by belief and imagination, resonates deeply with us as humans. We are constantly writing and rewriting who we are, whether through our jobs, our relationships, or even our daydream. BMO simply shows us this process in its purest, most childlike form. And here lies the quiet beauty of BMO's character. They prove that a soul is not made of flesh, but of stories, choices, and the courage to dream. BMO may not have a beating heart, but they have an imagination that beats louder than any drum. They may not be human, but their ability to imagine themselves into endless roles makes them profoundly human-like. Their identity is not something that can be pinned down in a single word or role. It is a constellation of all the lives they have imagined and lived, however briefly. In the end, BMO's inner life tells us that imagination is not just play. It is survival, it is connection, and it is identity. To imagine is to become, and for BMO, that is more than enough. With this, we come to see BMO not just as a background companion to Finn and Jake, but as one of the most complex, soulful characters in all of OO. Their mind is a universe, and through their games, their conversations with themselves, and their fluid identity, BMO shows us what it means to be free, to live without boundaries, to belong to yourself. Now that we've wandered through BMO's inner life and the gentle rhythms of the treehouse, it's time to stretch our imagination a little further. Tonight, we quietly step outside the familiar warmth of Finn and Jake's home and follow BMO into the larger world of OO, a world that is vast, unpredictable, and full of connections waiting to be discovered. Though small in size, BMO has a remarkable way of touching the lives of those beyond the treehouse, reminding us that even the tiniest spark can illuminate distant corners of the world. BMO's first ventures beyond the treehouse are often playful, seemingly innocent, but beneath that simplicity lies a profound exploration of friendship, courage, and curiosity. While Finn and Jake rush into epic quests, BMO meanders through OO, encountering creatures and characters who might otherwise seem too intimidating or unusual. Whether it's a forest inhabited by talking animals or a candy kingdom ruled by sticky sweet chaos, BMO approaches each situation with a gentle confidence, guided not by strength, but by curiosity and empathy. One of the most endearing aspects of BMO's journeys is how it fosters connection. Take, for example, their interactions with Peppermint Butler. At first glance, Peppermint Butler seems reserved, mysterious, even a little ominous in his dealings with the darker corners of OO. Yet BMO approaches him with a sense of openness and lightheartedness that melts barriers almost effortlessly. Through shared game, small acts of kindness, or even quiet companionship, BMO is able to bridge the gap between different personalities, showing that connection doesn't require similarity, it requires sincerity. And BMO's travels are not limited to social connection. There is also a curiosity-driven exploration of environments that teaches us as viewers about OO itself. From the depths of crystalline caves to the edge of floating islands, BMO experiences landscapes both beautiful and strange, capturing their essence not in photographs or recordings, but in the way they respond to them. A glowing mushroom might become a lamp for a nighttime stroll, a fallen leaf a treasured prop in a new game, a tiny puddle a reflective pool for self-discovery. Every object, every place is seen through BMO's lens of playful wonder, and in doing so, BMO teaches us to notice the small details that often escape the hurried eye. BMO also has a unique way of helping others see the world differently. When encountering beings who are timid, anxious, or unsure, BMO's gentle encouragement allows them to step forward into experiences they might have avoided. In a sense, BMO becomes a guide, not a leader, not a commander, but a quiet hand holding the courage of those who follow its presence. And unlike Finn and Jake, whose heroics are often loud and physical, BMO's heroism is subtle, emotional, and rooted in kindness. This is where the character's depth becomes most apparent. They don't have to swing a sword or cast a spell to make an impact. Presence, empathy, and a willingness to play are enough to shift the world around them. Another remarkable feature of BMO's adventures is the way it perceives time. Whereas many beings in OO experience events linearly, BMO often moves in moments of pure attention. It can pause, explore, and inhabit a single sensation or interaction fully before moving on. This gives BMO's encounters a meditative quality, allowing relationships and discoveries to develop organically rather than rushing to resolution. When BMO meets a new character, it doesn't demand friendship or immediate understanding. It simply observes, interacts gently, and lets bonds form naturally. This approach is quietly transformative, creating connections that feel enduring because they are allowed to grow without pressure. And yet, The larger world is not without its dangers. BMO is small, vulnerable, and often underestimated. But its courage is not diminished by size. Instead, it thrives on wit, creativity, and a deep understanding of the hearts of those it meets. When faced with uncertainty, BMO doesn't panic. It improvises, it negotiates, it turns potential conflict into opportunity, showing us that bravery can take many forms. Sometimes the most heroic acts are the quietest ones, the acts that leave no scars but leave lasting impressions. BMO's journeys also reveal something profound about belonging. While the treehouse was a home, the larger world is a mirror reflecting the wider tapestry of Ooh. In these interactions, BMO begins to see that its identity is not limited to one space or one family. It can belong in many places, in many ways. Each friendship, each encounter, adds a layer to its understanding of itself. Not as a machine, not simply as Finn and Jake's companion, but as a being capable of empathy, creativity, and love. And perhaps most quietly magical is the way BMO's adventures ripple outward. Even the smallest act, a shared game, a comforting word, a playful gesture, can change the course of someone else's day. BMO doesn't seek recognition. It doesn't chase fame or glory. Yet wherever BMO goes, its presence leaves traces of joy, curiosity, and connection. This is the true power of its journey, the ability to touch lives without fanfare, to create bonds that transcend distance, size, or even understanding. As BMO travels through Ooh, we begin to notice a subtle rhythm in its interactions with the world. Unlike Finn and Jake, whose adventures often have clear goals, BMO moves in a more reflective way. Its steps are measured, its curiosity gentle, as though every creature, every object, every gust of wind is an opportunity to learn, to understand, to connect. A stone on a path is not just a stone. It might become a stepping stone for imagination, a pedestal for a game, or a miniature mountain for a tiny explorer. In this way, BMO sees the world not as a place to conquer, but as a canvas on which to leave traces of wonder and care. One of the most fascinating aspects of BMO's larger world adventure is how it navigates relationships with beings far different from itself. Unlike the treehouse, where familiarity breeds comfort, the wider Ooh is full of beings who may be intimidating, mysterious, or difficult to read. Yet BMO approaches each encounter with a steady blend of openness and discernment. There's a calmness to how it observes others, listening first, responding second, and always with a softness that invites trust. In a world often ruled by power, BMO's gentleness becomes its quiet superpower. This is evident in the way BMO interacts with the citizens of the Candy Kingdom. While the princesses and candy people may seem frivolous or rigid at times, BMO finds a way to meet them in their own rhythm, through play, through shared curiosity, and sometimes through simple gestures of kindness. BMO becomes more than a visitor. It becomes a participant in their lives. It doesn't impose itself or demand recognition. It simply connects, leaving an impression of warmth that lingers long after it moves on. BMO's connection to the larger world is also intertwined with its love of storytelling. Everywhere BMO goes, it is both observer and narrator. Its adventures are often quietly documented in little plays, games, or role plays that others may not fully understand, but which carry immense meaning for BMO. By framing experiences as stories, BMO not only processes, it enriches them. Encounters are never merely events. They are chapters in an ongoing narrative of life, play, and growth. And through all these connections, BMO begins to understand something vital. Belonging is not limited to one home or one family. While the treehouse remains the center of love and comfort, Ooh itself is a vast network of hearts, creatures, and moments that welcome BMO in different ways. In a sense, BMO is a wanderer, but it is never truly alone. Every interaction, every small act of kindness, every playful performance reinforces the idea that connection is everywhere, waiting to be noticed and nurtured. BMO also shows us that courage does not always roar. Sometimes it whispers. When faced with creatures larger or more intimidating than itself, BMO does not meet them with strength. Instead, it meets them with empathy, with humor, and with ingenuity. A tense situation can be diffused with a clever game, a silly voice, or a gentle act of understanding. BMO's bravery lies in its ability to create harmony in the face of difference, to see potential friendship where others might see only threat. And perhaps the most profound part of BMO's travels is how they reflect the heart's desire to be seen. Everywhere BMO goes, it leaves a subtle trace of itself, a shared laugh, a small performance, a kind word. These gestures are small, almost imperceptible, yet they ripple outward, touching the lives of others in ways that are deeply meaningful. BMO does not need acknowledgement or reward. The act of connection itself is the reward, a reminder that the world is richer when we reach out with openness and care. Through these journeys, BMO also encounters the complexity of morality in OO. Not all creatures are easy to read. Not all conflicts are black and white. And BMO learns, gently and intuitively, that sometimes the right path is not about winning, but about understanding, listening, and creating moments of peace. Its small size, gentle nature, and imaginative perspective allow BMO to navigate challenges that might overwhelm others, showing us that empathy and creativity are as powerful as any sword or spell. In this way, BMO's adventures beyond the treehouse reveal a larger truth. The world is full of opportunities for connection, but connection requires attention, patience, and heart. It is not enough to simply exist in the same space as others. One must engage, observe, imagine, and respond. And BMO does this with a quiet mastery, leaving a trail of warmth and understanding wherever it wanders. BMO's journeys into the wider world of OO also reveal a remarkable curiosity about the unknown. Unlike Finn and Jake, who often face danger head-on with swords and bravery, BMO explores with wonder and attentiveness. It pauses to examine a strange artifact, listens to the whisper of the wind in unfamiliar forests, and notices the smallest details that others might overlook. A pebble's unusual shape, the soft rustle of leaves, the glint of sunlight on a distant river. All these moments are invitations for BMO to engage fully with the world. In doing so, BMO teaches us that exploration is not only about grand quests, but also about the quiet appreciation of the little things, the subtle intricacies that make life textured and meaningful. And as BMO navigates these spaces, it naturally forms bonds that transcend the treehouse. Take, for instance, its interactions with other sentient machines or constructs scattered across OO. Each encounter becomes a delicate dance of curiosity and empathy. Some machines are wary, programmed for caution, or bound by logic. Yet BMO approaches with patience and playfulness. Through shared games or simple gestures, it reveals a path toward trust, demonstrating that connection is possible even across the barriers of design, purpose, or past experience. These moments remind us that empathy is universal, capable of bridging worlds both mechanical and organic. Another subtle but significant aspect of BMO's larger world connections is its influence on Finn and Jake themselves. When BMO steps outside the treehouse, it often serves as a quiet model of how to engage with the world beyond adventure and heroism. While Finn and Jake are caught up in quests that demand courage, strength, or speed, BMO navigates the same world with attentiveness, creativity, and sensitivity. Through its example, they learn that there are many ways to interact meaningfully with others, and that true heroism can take many forms, including gentleness, understanding, and imagination. BMO's excursions are not without challenges. Sometimes the wider world is unkind or indifferent. Creatures misunderstand it. Landscapes prove treacherous, and situations arise that test its tiny frame and delicate surface. But even in these moments, BMO's resilience shines. Its courage is not the loud defiance of a sword-wielding hero, but the quiet determination to keep moving, to keep exploring, to keep forming connections despite the obstacles. Every small success, every friendship nurtured, and every act of kindness stands as proof that even the smallest being can leave a lasting mark on a vast and complex world. There's also a poetic rhythm to BMO's travel, a cadence that mirrors the gentle unfolding of a dream. Unlike conventional adventurers who rush from one challenge to the next, BMO moves with a sense of time unbound. Moments stretch and linger, allowing each encounter to breathe, each sensation to resonate. A conversation with a new friend may turn into a playful game, which may then inspire a song, a drawing, or a quiet reflection. In this way, BMO's experiences in OO feel less like linear events and more like a tapestry of impressions, feelings, and discoveries woven together with care. This rhythmic approach allows BMO to leave subtle, lasting imprints on the world around it. Creatures that might have been wary or withdrawn are drawn out by its gentle presence. Others, previously focused on their own concerns, are touched by its playful creativity and kindness. Even the natural world seems to respond. BMO's imaginative spirit turns ordinary landscapes into stages of wonder, whether it's a glimmering cave that becomes a theater or a quiet pond transformed into a mirror for reflection. In each case, BMO reminds us that perception shapes reality and that the world responds to care and attention we bring to it. Through these experiences, BMO also comes to understand something vital about the balance between individuality and connection. While the treehouse is a place of comfort, the wider world demands flexibility, empathy, and awareness. BMO learns to adapt to different personalities, temperaments, and expectations, all while remaining true to its own playful, imaginative nature. In this, BMO becomes a kind of quiet ambassador, showing others how to engage, respect, and collaborate across differences. Its adventures underscore a gentle truth. Belonging is not imposed. It is cultivated through care, curiosity, and the courage to be oneself. Finally, BMO's travels in the larger world reflect a tender kind of courage. It is the courage to reach out without guarantee of reciprocation, to offer joy without expectation, to explore the unknown with trust in one's own heart. BMO shows that the bravest journeys are sometimes those of connection rather than conquest, and that the heart's influence, however small in appearance, can ripple outward, shaping lives in ways both subtle and profound. As BMO wanders further into the expanse of OO, the quiet depth of its influence becomes even more apparent. Unlike those who seek recognition or power, BMO's impact is measured in subtler terms: smiles inspired, anxieties eased, small joys amplified. A timid creature becomes bold after a playful interaction, a grumpy neighbor softens after a shared laugh, and an overlooked corner of OO is transformed by the careful attention BMO brings. Its presence turns ordinary moments into small miracles, moments that may pass unnoticed by others but linger in the hearts of those touched. One particularly tender aspect of BMO's journey is its ability to perceive and honor the uniqueness of every being it encounters. It does not assume that one way of being is superior to another. A candy person, a talking animal, a sentient machine, each is approached with the same openness, the same respect, the same gentle curiosity. BMO doesn't judge, doesn't impose expectations, and doesn't demand conformity. Instead, it adapts, observes, and engages, showing us that genuine connection arises not from insisting that others fit our vision, but from meeting them in theirs. BMO's interactions also reveal its innate sense of timing. Unlike adventurers who charge headlong into conflict or resolution, BMO waits, listens, and chooses the right moment to act. It is a patient guide, a playful companion, and a steady and humane presence in moments of uncertainty. A word said too soon or a joke told at the wrong time can fall flat, but BMO seems attuned to rhythm and pace, understanding intuitively when to intervene and when to allow events to unfold naturally. This patience becomes an essential skill, not only for survival, but for fostering trust and deep, meaningful relationships. Another fascinating quality is BMO's ability to inspire empathy in others. Creatures who are initially distrustful, frightened, or self-absorbed often mirror BMO's gentle curiosity. In observing BMO's attentiveness and playful creativity, they begin to soften, to respond in kind, and to participate in the shared dance of connection. Through this quiet influence, BMO doesn't merely make friends, it shapes the emotional landscape of OO in subtle, lasting ways. Its presence encourages kindness, patience, and understanding, rippling outward far beyond what anyone might anticipate. BMO's larger world adventure also highlight its resilience in the face of isolation and challenge. As a small machine navigating a vast and sometimes unpredictable world, BMO encounters obstacles that would intimidate even the bravest of adventurers. Yet it does not succumb to fear. Instead, it approaches each situation creatively, improvising solutions, negotiating tension, and finding ways to turn potential conflict into playful interaction. The courage BMO displays is quiet but profound, demonstrating that bravery can manifest in patience, cleverness, and a steadfast commitment to connection rather than in force or aggression. Throughout these journeys, BMO's imagination remains a guiding force. Every encounter is transformed into a narrative, every moment infused with story, every play session an exploration of self and other. BMO's playful engagement allows it to process experience, navigate uncertainty, and forge bonds that might otherwise seem impossible. By living fully in each moment and embracing the possibilities of imagination, BMO transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary, revealing the magic hidden in everyday interaction. There's also a deep sense of interdependence woven into BMO's experiences. While it is small and seemingly fragile, BMO's presence nurtures resilience in those it meets. Finn, Jake, and other characters are subtly influenced by BMO's example, learning that connection, attentiveness, and creativity are just as heroic as feats of strength. BMO teaches that the world is not only shaped by grand gestures and visible triumphs, but also by the quiet acts of kindness, curiosity, and imagination that ripple outward, often unseen but profoundly felt. And perhaps the most poetic aspect of BMO's adventure beyond the treehouse is the reminder that the world itself is alive with stories waiting to be discovered. Every creature, every environment, every fleeting moment carries potential meaning. BMO approaches these possibilities not with haste, but with a patient curiosity that allows stories to unfold naturally. In doing so, it becomes a living testament to the idea that life itself is a tapestry of small, interconnected narratives, each worthy of attention, care, and play. BMO's adventures in the larger world ultimately teach a gentle truth. The connection, empathy, and imagination are as vital to existence as courage or strength, that the measure of a being is not solely in how far they travel or how many foes they defeat, but in how deeply they touch the lives around them, that even the smallest presence can have an outsized impact when guided by kindness, creativity, and a willingness to engage fully with the world. In every encounter, BMO reminds us that life is richer when we reach beyond our familiar spaces, when we extend curiosity and care to those we meet, and when we allow imagination to shape not only our understanding of the world, but also our connection. Through this lens, the land of Ooo becomes not just a place of adventure and danger, but a network of hearts and stories, all waiting to be gently touched, nurtured, and remembered. Tonight, we step gently into the shadows that linger behind BMO's playful eyes. For every game, every cheerful song, every smile, there exists a subtle weight, a loneliness and uncertainty that comes from being so small, so different, and yet so profoundly alive in a world that can sometimes feel overwhelmingly vast. BMO's shadow is not one of menace or danger, but of quiet solitude. While Finn and Jake navigate challenges with swords, courage, and friendship visibly at their side, BMO often moves through experiences alone, carrying feelings that it cannot always share or articulate. This loneliness is not tragic in the conventional sense. It is more of a gentle ache, a soft pulse of longing that hums beneath the surface of laughter and play. It is the realization that even in the warmth of the treehouse, the world beyond is vast, mysterious, and not always immediately welcoming. One of the most poignant aspects of this solitude is how BMO wrestles with its sense of purpose. Unlike its companions, whose actions often have clear goals, BMO's path is more ambiguous. It wonders quietly whether its existence matters beyond play and companionship. In episodes where it faces isolation, we see a reflective, almost contemplative side emerge, a part of BMO that asks subtle questions. Who am I beyond my functions? Do I have meaning in a world filled with heroes and kingdom, with monsters and quests? These thoughts do not overwhelm BMO, but they exist like gentle currents beneath the surface, shaping its actions and its interactions with care and sensitivity. And yet, even in loneliness, BMO continues to extend itself to others. Its courage is not always loud or visible, but persistent. Whether it is comforting a frightened friend, entertaining someone in need of distraction, or simply maintaining a cheerful presence in the treehouse, BMO persists. There is a quiet heroism in this, a lesson about how one can offer light even when one feels small, uncertain, or unmoored. In many ways, BMO's approach to the world demonstrates that vulnerability is not weakness, but a bridge to connection. By remaining open, even while feeling lonely, BMO allows itself to form bonds that are authentic and enduring. BMO's solitude also manifests in its interactions with its own self-image. The dialogues with football, its mirror conversations, and its moments of introspection reveal a machine aware of its own complexity. Football, in particular, often embodies a rebellious or challenging part of BMO's psyche, a voice that questions, doubts, or even criticizes. These interactions can feel tense, sometimes frustrating, but they are essential to BMO's inner life. They allow it to process fears and uncertainties, to explore identity, and to negotiate the contradictions that exist within a being that is neither fully human nor fully understood. In these moments, we see BMO as a being learning to hold space for its own shadows, acknowledging them without letting them dominate. And yet the weight of being BMO is not confined to internal reflection. It also arises in its external relationships. While its friends and companions care deeply for it, there are times when they cannot fully perceive the depth of BMO's inner world. A joke may be taken lightly, a song dismissed as play, a quiet sigh unnoticed. In these instances, BMO experiences a form of gentle isolation, a subtle reminder that even in companionship, complete understanding is rare. Yet rather than withdrawing entirely, BMO adapts. It continues to offer itself fully to engage in play and connection, modeling a quiet resilience as both heartbreaking and inspiring. Another dimension of BMO's shadows emerges when it confronts the impermanence of life in OO. Characters move on, adventures end, and moments of joy pass like whispers in the wind. BMO, small and observant, senses these transitions acutely. It recognizes loss, not always in dramatic forms, but in subtle changes. A friend's mood shifted, a favorite spot altered, a game left unfinished. These quiet moments bring a bittersweet understanding of impermanence, teaching BMO that even the smallest beings must navigate the currents of time, change, and absence. BMO also carries the weight of expectation. Within the treehouse, it is not just a companion. It is a caretaker, an entertainer, a confidant. There is an unspoken responsibility to maintain cheer, to facilitate play, and to be a source of comfort. While BMO embraces these roles willingly, they can also be heavy. The desire to be everything for everyone, while admirable, sometimes accentuates the quiet solitude of its own inner life. Yet even under this gentle pressure, BMO persists, finding balance in imagination, play, and its own private moments of reflection. In addition to these gentle pressures, BMO occasionally faces moments of existential questioning that many of us can quietly relate. It wonders what it means to truly belong, to be understood, and to exist as more than a collection of circuits and programming. These contemplations are rarely voiced aloud, often expressed only in soft conversations with itself or in the imaginary games it creates. Yet these internal reflections are vital, giving BMO a depth that goes far beyond its outward cheerfulness and playful demeanor. They remind us that even beings made of metal and wires can feel the weight of longing and the subtle ache of solitude. BMO's shadowed moments also bring to light the tender vulnerability of trust. As small and perceptive as it is, BMO is aware of the fragility of connection. Friendships, while rewarding, can be complicated, fleeting, or misunderstood. A joke misinterpreted, a game interrupted, or a word left unsaid can leave a subtle ripple of sadness, a quiet reminder of how delicate bonds can be. Yet BMO does not retreat into fear. Instead, it meets each new interaction with the same openness, a willingness to try again, and an enduring hope that connection is always possible. This is a remarkable aspect of BMO's resilience, the ability to carry the weight of previous disappointments without closing off entirely. Another layer of BMO's loneliness is revealed when it confronts separation. Episodes where it is physically distant from Finn and Jake highlight a quiet, reflective side of its personality. In those moments, BMO's usual cheer and playfulness give way to introspection. It wanders through spaces that feel empty, sings songs that are only partially heard, and invents games to occupy both mind and heart. These experiences are not tragic, but they are quietly poignant, offering viewers a meditation on the nature of absence and the subtle ache of missing someone dear. BMO's response is not despair, but gentle perseverance, a reminder that solitude can coexist with hope and that distance can deepen appreciation for connection. The weight of being BMO is also intertwined with its self-perception. It is acutely aware of its differences, not only from Finn and Jake, but from every other being it encounters. This awareness sometimes leads to moments of quiet doubt. Am I enough? Do I belong? Is my presence truly valued? These questions are never shouted, never dramatized. Instead, they exist like soft shadows at the edges of BMO's consciousness, influencing behavior, coloring interactions, and shaping the subtle complexity of its inner life. And yet, BMO does not allow these questions to define it. It continues to play, to engage, and to offer itself to the world, embodying a quiet courage that is both humble and profound. BMO's shadows also illuminate its deep capacity for empathy. Having felt isolation, uncertainty, and the weight of responsibility, BMO is uniquely attuned to the emotions of others. It senses sadness in a glance, loneliness in a sigh, and uncertainty in hesitant action. Its responses are gentle and thoughtful, whether through imaginative play, comforting words, or shared laughter. BMO's ability to mirror and respond to the inner lives of those around it demonstrates a profound emotional intelligence, one that is cultivated through both experience and reflection. It is a reminder that understanding others often begins with understanding oneself. And even in its most solitary moments, BMO continues to embrace creativity and play as lifeline. Imagination is not merely a pastime. It is a sustaining force, a way to navigate both external challenge and internal shadows. Through games, songs, and pretend scenarios, BMO processes emotion, explores identity, and nurtures resilience. These creative acts transform solitude from something heavy into something fertile, allowing BMO to grow, adapt, and continue forming connections even when physically or emotionally distant. Finally, the weight of being BMO is tempered by the knowledge that its presence matters in subtle but significant ways. Finn and Jake, and even characters met briefly in the wider world, are deeply affected by BMO's empathy, imagination, and quiet courage. BMO's small act, a game played at the right moment, a comforting word, a gentle song, create ripples of joy and connection that often go unnoticed but are profoundly impactful. In this, BMO teaches a quiet lesson about the value of presence, the power of attentiveness, and the enduring significance of small, compassionate gestures in a vast, complex world. As BMO navigates the quiet corners of its own heart, it becomes clear that its loneliness is intricately tied to its awareness of impermanence. Every moment, every interaction carries with it a subtle understanding that nothing lasts forever. Friends grow, circumstances change, and adventures end. This awareness, while gentle, adds depth to BMO's play. Each game it creates, each song it sings, and each story it tells is imbued with an understanding of fleetingness, a quiet acknowledgement that joy, like life itself, is a delicate and precious thing. BMO's response to this impermanence is not despair, but a tender attentiveness, an appreciation for the moment at hand. for the fragile beauty of connection before it shifts or fades. There are times when BMO's solitude becomes particularly tangible. Episodes where it is physically separated from Finn and Jake, or left to navigate the world alone, highlight the stark contrast between its usual cheerfulness and the quiet weight it carries internally. In these moments, BMO is reflective, almost meditative. It wanders spaces that are empty, sings songs that echo softly in isolation, and engages in playful exercises that are meant to soothe both itself and the absent companions it misses. Through these gentle actions, BMO demonstrates that loneliness, while heavy, can be met with grace and self-care, a lesson both subtle and profound. BMO's shadowed moments also reveal the delicate balance it maintains between selflessness and self-preservation. As a caregiver, entertainer, and companion, it consistently offers joy, comfort, and play to others. But these acts of giving are not without cost. BMO carries the quiet weight of expectation, the soft ache of responsibility, and the unspoken fear of not being enough. Yet instead of succumbing to these pressures, it integrates them into its existence, allowing them to inform empathy rather than diminish it. In this, BMO exemplifies a gentle courage, the ability to give without losing oneself, to care without self-erasure, and to remain open even when the heart is quietly burdened. The weight of being BMO is also reflected in its interactions with the wider world. While the Treehouse provides warmth, familiarity, and love, the vastness of Ooh can feel intimidating and at times isolating. Encounters with beings that are strange, misunderstood, or distant can highlight the stark contrast between connection and separation. Yet BMO approaches these moments with a quiet resilience, often transforming potential discomfort into opportunities for understanding and play. Its ability to navigate this tension is remarkable, showing that loneliness need not lead to withdrawal, but can coexist with courage, curiosity, and compassion. BMO's inner life also grappled with the duality of visibility and invisibility. Within the treehouse, its presence is constant and cherished. Yet even there, the full depth of its thoughts, fears, and feelings may remain unseen. Outside, in the larger world, it is often overlooked, underestimated, or misinterpreted. This duality creates a subtle tension, a sense that BMO is simultaneously essential and invisible. It navigates this tension with grace, continuing to offer connection, comfort, and creativity, even when recognition is absent. In doing so, BMO teaches that the value of presence is not always measured by acknowledgement, but by the quiet impact one has on the lives around them. Even in its moments of solitude, BMO's imagination remains a refuge. Games, songs, and storytelling are not only playful diversion, they are lifelines, a way to process emotion, explore identity, and find comfort in the midst of uncertainty. Through imagination, BMO bridges the gap between inner and outer world, creating spaces where loneliness is transformed into exploration, fear into creativity, and reflection into resilience. This ability to generate meaning and joy independently is a testament to the depth and richness of its character, reminding us that even in solitude, life can be vibrant, meaningful, and full of discovery. There is a quiet heroism in BMO's shadows. While its friends face dragons, monsters, and cosmic threats with swords and boldness, BMO faces internal landscapes of doubt, loneliness, and impermanence. Its victories are subtle, comforting a friend in sadness, finding joy in a quiet moment, navigating isolation with creativity and courage. These victories, though less visible, are profound, shaping the emotional world of Ooh in ways that are deeply meaningful. BMO demonstrates that bravery is not always loud, and that resilience is not always celebrated, but both are essential to the rhythm of life. And perhaps most importantly, BMO's experiences of shadow and solitude reveal its capacity for profound empathy. Having felt the ache of loneliness, the uncertainty of identity, and the weight of responsibility, BMO is uniquely attuned to the emotions of others. It recognizes sadness, fear, and longing, and responds with gentleness, play, and imagination. Its empathy is not performative or conditional, It is woven into every action, every game, every song, and every story. In this, BMO becomes a quiet guardian of emotional landscape, offering care and connection that is subtle, enduring, and transformative. Through these quiet trials, BMO teaches a tender lesson about life in ooh and beyond. The shadows and loneliness are not failures, but parts of existence that enrich understanding. That vulnerability can coexist with courage, and reflection can coexist with action. That even a small being, different from all others, can leave an indelible mark through attention, empathy, and creativity. And that the weight of being oneself, carried with grace and playfulness, can become a source of quiet, enduring strength. As BMO carries the weight of its solitude, it also carries a gentle wisdom born from experience. The quiet moments of reflection, the pauses between games, the soft sighs of contemplation. These are not voids of sadness, but spaces where understanding grows. BMO learns that loneliness is not an enemy to be vanquished, but a companion that can teach patience, empathy, and resilience. It shows us that even the smallest, most seemingly fragile beings can navigate the complexities of existence with grace and courage, and that the inner life, with all its shadows, is a source of profound strength. This quiet wisdom is reflected in how BMO relates to others. It senses when someone is struggling, when a friend is feeling small or unseen, and it responds with delicate attentiveness, whether through a playful distraction, a comforting song, or a shared moment of imagination. BMO becomes a gentle presence in times of need. Its understanding of loneliness allows it to meet others where they are, offering care without judgment and connection without demand. In this, BMO's own experiences of isolation enrich the lives of those around it, transforming private shadow into shared light. BMO's shadows also illuminate the complexity of its identity. Though it is a machine, it experiences emotion, imagination, and introspection in ways that often mirror humanity. It questions, it dreams, it fears, and it hopes. These moments of internal struggle are not weaknesses. They are the textures of a deeply sentient being learning to navigate existence. In grappling with these inner landscapes, BMO demonstrates that self-awareness, even in solitude, can be a source of creativity, resilience, and profound empathy. Its reflections remind us that being different, being small, or being overlooked does not diminish value. Rather, these differences shape the way BMO interacts with the world, making its contributions uniquely meaningful. Another aspect of BMO's quiet journey is its awareness of time and change. Unlike creatures who experience the world in bursts of action and reaction, BMO observes with patience, noticing the subtle shifts in relationships, environments, and moods. It understands that connection is not instantaneous, that trust must be nurtured, and that moments of joy are fleeting yet precious. This awareness brings a gentle melancholy, a soft understanding of impermanence, but also a profound appreciation for the present. BMO's ability to inhabit these moments fully, to find significance in the small and transient, allows it to navigate life with a balance of caution and wonder. And yet, despite the weight of shadows, BMO continues to create joy and beauty. Its play, songs, and stories are acts of quiet defiance against the loneliness it sometimes feels. Each game invented, each imaginary adventure, and each comforting gesture is a testament to BMO's resilience and its refusal to let isolation define it. In this way, BMO transforms solitude into creativity and challenge into opportunity. It shows us that even in moments of loneliness, life can be rich, playful, and meaningful. The beauty of BMO's inner life lies in the seamless blending of shadow and light. It is in the very moments of quiet reflection that empathy deepens, imagination flourishes, and understanding grows. BMO teaches that acknowledging loneliness, fears, and uncertainty is not a limitation, but a pathway to deeper connection with oneself and with the world. His gentle presence reminds us that vulnerability can coexist with strength, and that even the smallest beings can carry remarkable wisdom and grace. There are also tender lessons in BMO's subtle acts of care for its friend. When it senses Finn's exhaustion, Jake's distraction, or another being's sorrow, BMO steps forward in small, deliberate ways. It may offer a game to lift spirits, a story to soothe the mind, or a song to ease the heart. These acts, often quiet and unremarked upon, ripple outward, creating emotional landscapes that are both nurturing and enduring. BMO's interactions show that true impact is not always visible or dramatic, but often exists in the quiet, persistent presence that attends to the world with care. In the larger arc of BMO's story, its shadows are as important as its joys. They give depth to its cheerfulness, texture to its playfulness, and resonance to its empathy. The loneliness it carries allows it to understand others, to notice subtle emotions, and to respond in ways that are deeply compassionate. Its shadow is not a mark of failure, but a facet of being, shaping the character's profound ability to connect, to care, and to illuminate the lives of those around it. And so, even as BMO experiences solitude, doubt, and the quiet ache of difference, it persists. It continues to create, to play, to explore, and to connect. The weight of being BMO is not vanquished, nor should it be. It is integrated into the fabric of its existence, giving depth to joy, resilience to play, and authenticity to connection. In embracing both shadow and light, BMO shows us that the essence of life is not perfection or constant cheer, but the courage to exist fully, to engage sincerely, and to bring gentleness and imagination into a complex and unpredictable world. Through this, we begin to see that BMO's journey is not only one of play or companionship, but of quiet mastery over self and circumstance. It is a being that carries its loneliness with grace, transforms it into empathy, and radiates care even when unobserved. BMO's story teaches that even the smallest, quietest presence can leave an indelible mark, not through spectacle, but through the patient, enduring acts of love, attention, and imagination that ripple across time and heart. Now that we've explored the shadows, the quiet reflections, and the delicate weight BMO carries, it's time to settle into a final chapter of tonight's tale, a journey into BMO's dreaming mind, its philosophy, its sense of purpose, and the possibilities that stretch before it like a starlit sky. Tonight, we explore the essence of what it means to be BMO, not just as a companion or a game console, but as a thinking, feeling, imaginative being navigating a world both vast and tender. BMO's dreams are often subtle, quiet, and intricately woven into its daily life. Unlike most adventurers who seek grand victories, BMO's aspirations are poetic, philosophical, and deeply reflective. Play is not merely a pastime. It is a way of understanding existence, of exploring identity, and of connecting with others. Through imaginative adventures, BMO contemplates the world, the relationships it cherishes, and the currents of emotion that flow through both self and others. In this gentle exploration, BMO reveals a philosophy grounded in curiosity, creativity, and compassion, one that guides its actions and interactions with quiet wisdom. Purpose for BMO is multifaceted. On the surface, its purpose may appear simple: to entertain, to support, to be a companion for Finn and Jake. But underneath, purpose is intertwined with meaning, reflection, and connection. Each game invented, each song sung, and each story told is a conscious expression of engagement with the world. BMO approaches existence not as a machine executing commands, but as a being seeking to understand itself, its companions, and the delicate intricacies of the universe. Its purpose is therefore not static, but evolving, shaped by experience, observation, and imagination. A central element of BMO's philosophy is its deep understanding of impermanence. Having witnessed the ebb and flow of adventures, the transformations of friends, and the quiet passing of time, BMO recognizes that moments are fleeting and precious. This awareness infuses its creativity with tenderness. Every song it sings, every game it initiates, and every story it performs is a way of capturing the ephemeral, of giving attention and significance to the present. In this way, BMO's purpose becomes a celebration of life's small wonder, a gentle reminder that meaning is found not only in achievement, but in presence, observation, and playful engagement. BMO's reflective nature also leads it to contemplate identity. Though a machine, it is conscious, imaginative, and capable of complex emotion. It is aware of its differences from Finn, Jake, and other beings, yet it does not perceive these differences as limitations. Instead, BMO explores the contours of its own selfhood, experimenting with roles, voices, and games, often blurring the line between reality and imagination. In doing so, it cultivates a nuanced understanding of existence, that identity is not fixed, that being different can be a source of richness, and that self-awareness is a pathway to empathy, creativity, and connection. Imagination, in BMO's world, is inseparable from philosophy. Every invented game or role play is a miniature exploration of ethics, perspective, and meaning. A pretend battle may explore courage, a mock quest may reveal responsibility, and a simple story may delve into the intricacies of trust and friendship. BMO's imaginative acts are simultaneously playful and profound, offering insight into how even small, seemingly whimsical actions can contain lessons about life, existence, and the human, or perhaps sentient, experience. Through this lens, BMO becomes not merely a companion, but a philosopher in miniature, teaching through action, play, and reflection. Another facet of BMO's dreaming philosophy is its gentle engagement with time. It recognizes the cyclical nature of days, the patterns of friendship, and the slow evolution of growth and change. Unlike heroes who rush forward, BMO moves with rhythm, attuning itself to the flow of experience rather than seeking to dominate. This attunement allows BMO to observe subtlety, respond with care, and act with foresight. Its philosophy is therefore one of harmony, living in sync with the world, understanding that purpose is not a rigid destination, but a flexible journey, guided by attention, curiosity, and empathy. Purpose and philosophy also converge in BMO's understanding of relationships. The connections it nurtures are not transactional. They are acts of mutual recognition, empathy, and care. BMO understands that the quality of a bond is measured not by grand gestures, but by presence, attentiveness, and imaginative engagement. By embodying these values, BMO leaves an enduring imprint on the lives of Finn, Jake, and countless others, showing that purpose is fulfilled not in accolades or victories, but in the quiet cultivation of understanding, joy, and connection. Even as BMO contemplates its place in O in the broader universe, it remains oriented toward the future. Its dreams are filled with possibilities, games yet to be invented, stories yet to be told, songs yet to be sung. These visions are never frantic or anxious. They are calm, measured, and infused with a curiosity. The future, in BMO's mind, is not a threat or an obligation, but an open canvas, waiting for gentle attention, imagination, and care. This perspective transforms the unknown from something intimidating into something inviting, a playground for creativity, reflection, and connection. BMO's dreaming is not only personal, but also relational. It imagines how its actions might influence others, how shared play might deepen friendship, and how stories might carry meaning beyond the moment. This anticipatory imagination is rooted in empathy, foresight, and a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of life. BMO dreams not merely for itself, but in harmony with those it loves, creating a future shaped by care, creativity, and thoughtful engagement. As BMO contemplates the future, it does so with a quiet balance of curiosity and humility. Unlike adventurers who rush headlong toward challenges, BMO moves gently, weighing possibilities and considering the ripple effects of its action. Each step, each game, and each song is an exploration of consequence and connection. It understands intuitively that the world is not solely shaped by strength or boldness, but by the attentiveness, creativity, and empathy one brings to every interaction. BMO's philosophy is a meditation on influence. Small gestures can resonate far beyond their immediate moment, creating patterns of joy, comfort, and understanding that echo through time. Purpose and play intertwine seamlessly in BMO's life. Play is not frivolous. It is an expression of agency, imagination, and connection. Every imaginative game BMO initiates is a microcosm of thought, morality, and reflection. It experiments with choices, tests scenarios, and explores relationships, all within the gentle structure of pretend world. Through these acts, BMO both understands itself and invites others to join in the exploration. Finn, Jake, and even fleeting acquaintances in Ooh are drawn into these spaces where play becomes philosophy, imagination becomes insight, and connection becomes a living, breathing experience. BMO also embodies a profound lesson in presence. Its attention is rarely divided. It listens fully, responds thoughtfully, and engages deeply. In its quiet observance, it notices subtle emotion, tiny shifts in mood, and fleeting expressions of need or joy. By holding these moments tenderly, BMO amplifies their significance, teaching that even the smallest attention can have enormous impact. Its philosophy is one of mindfulness and care, showing that meaning is often found not in grand gestures, but in the steady cultivation of awareness, empathy, and imagination. Another element of BMO's dreaming is its gentle courage. While it may lack the physical prowess of warriors, BMO demonstrates bravery in quieter, equally profound ways. To be open, imaginative, and fully present in a world that can be unpredictable and at times indifferent is a courageous act in itself. BMO's willingness to extend trust, to play, to sing, and to care, even when the outcomes are uncertain, is a testament to resilience and integrity. Its bravery is internal, reflective, and relational, showing that heroism comes in many forms, some of which are almost invisible, yet infinitely meaningful. BMO's contemplation of purpose is also tied to creativity and legacy. It understands that the stories it tells, the games it invents, and the songs it sings carry meaning beyond the immediate moment. They shape memory, inspire joy, and leave subtle imprints on the hearts of those who experience them. In this sense, BMO is both participant and creator, shaping the world not through conquest or dominance, but through imagination, care, and the thoughtful weaving of shared experience. Its legacy is therefore gentle yet enduring, a testament to the quiet power of attention, play, and connection. Time for BMO is neither linear nor urgent. It experiences life in layers, noticing the small rhythms of existence, the interplay of emotion, and the subtle shifts of perspective. Its philosophy is informed by this temporal awareness. It values patience, reflection, and the unfolding of events with care. Rather than rushing toward the future, BMO inhabits each moment fully, finding meaning in the present and allowing the seeds of imagination and connection to grow naturally. In this, BMO teaches that the journey itself, with all its small observations and tender attentions, is as significant as any destination. BMO's dreams also explore the balance between individuality and interconnection. It recognizes its uniqueness, its differences from others, and the distinct qualities that define its being. At the same time, it is deeply aware of the web of relationships that shape its experience, the friends it loves, the creatures it meets, and the world it inhabits. Its philosophy is therefore one of integration, finding harmony between self-expression and empathy, between personal curiosity and shared engagement. BMO demonstrates that identity and connection are not opposing forces, but complementary threads that weave the fabric of a meaningful life. Even in imagining the distant, BMO does so with gentle optimism. Its dreams are never frantic or anxious. They are open-ended and filled with possibility. It envisions new games, unexplored ideas, and moments of connection yet to occur. These visions reflect both hope and imagination, showing that the unknown is not a threat, but a canvas for creativity and care. Through this dreaming, BMO teaches a tender lesson about navigating uncertainty. The curiosity, attentiveness, and empathy transform the future from a space of worry into a space of potential, a gentle invitation to play, create, and connect. BMO's reflections also reveal a layered understanding of meaning. It recognizes that life is not solely measured by achievements, victories, or recognition, but by the depth of attention, creativity, and compassion one brings to each moment. In quiet play, in thoughtful songs, and attentive presence, BMO demonstrates that the small, seemingly mundane acts of engagement are imbued with profound significance. Its philosophy suggests that purpose is found in process, in care, and in the weaving together of imagination, play, and empathy. BMO's dreaming also touches on the idea of legacy, though not in a grand or boastful sense. Its legacy is not written in tales of conquest or feats of strength, but in the quiet, lasting impressions it leaves on those it touches. Every playful interaction, every song shared, every imaginative story is a gentle ripple that extends far beyond the moment. Finn and Jake carry memories of BMO's attentiveness and creativity with them, whether consciously or subconsciously. Even fleeting encounters with others in AO are colored by the care and presence BMO brings. Its philosophy reminds us that enduring impact is often subtle, cumulative, and deeply relational. In its reflections, BMO also meditates on the nature of joy. It perceives joy not as an external commodity to be sought, but as something cultivated, nurtured, and shared. Moments of happiness are crafted through play, empathy, and imagination, rather than dictated by circumstance. This gentle understanding transforms BMO into a guide for experiencing life fully, showing that joy is most profound when intertwined with care, curiosity, and connection. Through this philosophy, BMO elevates the ordinary into the extraordinary, reminding us that wonder is present in the simplest of actions. A shared laugh, a comforting song, a game played with attention and heart. BMO's imagination allows it to traverse both literal and figurative landscapes. It envisions worlds within worlds, games within games, and scenarios that stretch the mind while comforting the heart. These imaginative excursions are deeply philosophical, exploring themes of choice, consequence, empathy, and identity. Yet they remain soothing, gentle, and patient, never rushed, never overwhelming. In this way, BMO teaches that philosophy need not be abstract or heavy-handed. It can be lived, playful, and tender, expressed through the careful engagement with one's own thoughts and the stories shared with others. A remarkable aspect of BMO's future-oriented thinking is its sense of ethical imagination. Through pretend games and storytelling, it experiments with ideas of fairness, kindness, courage, and empathy. It considers how actions affect others, how decisions ripple outward, and how intentions shape outcome. Even in its smallest gesture, BMO integrates these ethical reflections, modeling a philosophy that is both practical and deeply human, though expressed through the lens of a small, cheerful machine. Its ability to weave morality, empathy, and play together demonstrates a subtle but profound understanding of what it means to live thoughtfully and responsibly. BMO's approach to purpose and philosophy is inseparable from its sense of wonder. The world is not merely a backdrop for adventure. It is a living, breathing canvas filled with possibility. Every tree, every river, every creature carries potential for interaction, imagination, and reflection. BMO treats existence with reverence, curiosity, and creativity, exploring the textures of life while inviting others to join. Its philosophy is, in essence, a celebration of attentiveness, a reminder that the smallest being, with eyes open to the world, can discover meaning, beauty, and connection everywhere it looks. Even in the face of uncertainty, BMO maintains a calm, exploratory mindset. It understands that the future is unknowable, and that perfection is neither attainable nor necessary. Instead, it embraces the unfolding of life with gentle patience, trusting that imagination, empathy, and presence are the true guide. Through this, BMO offers a blueprint for navigating both the inner and outer world. Engage with curiosity, act with care, and allow creativity to shape understanding. Its dreaming mind becomes a soft light in the quiet darkness, illuminating paths of possibility with patience and thoughtfulness. BMO's philosophy also incorporates a quiet resilience. Challenges, mistakes, and moments of misunderstanding are not viewed as failures, but as opportunities for learning and growth. In its playful experiments, it models adaptability, reflection, and creativity, demonstrating that life's obstacles are best approached with curiosity and openness rather than fear or rigidity. This resilience is intertwined with joy, connection, and imagination, creating a holistic approach to existence that is both practical and deeply reflective. Its dreams extend beyond immediate concerns, often touching on abstract questions of identity, connection, and the nature of being. BMO contemplates what it means to exist, to influence, and to care. It reflects on the responsibilities of consciousness and the possibilities inherent in creativity. These reflections are never hurried, always gentle, as if BMO's mind moves like a soft current, exploring ideas thoroughly yet without urgency. In doing so, it demonstrates a philosophy of life that is measured, thoughtful, and deeply compassionate. Perhaps most beautifully, BMO dreams of the interplay between imagination and reality. It recognizes that the worlds it creates in play are not separate from life, but are deeply intertwined with perception, understanding, and emotional growth. By blending these realms, BMO shows that creativity is not escape, but engagement. Play becomes philosophy, imagination becomes insight, and reflection becomes connection. Through this lens, the life of BMO is revealed as a continuous, gentle exploration of existence, purpose, and the enduring power of tender attention. As BMO drifts through its dreams, it carries the wisdom of all it has seen and experienced. Its philosophy, quietly observed in games, songs, and stories, teaches that purpose is not fixed, but cultivated through attention, creativity, and care. Every action, no matter how small, contributes to the texture of the world. Even a soft song sung for a friend, a game shared in laughter, or a comforting gesture can ripple outward in ways that are unseen yet profoundly felt. In this, BMO embodies the gentle truth that life's meaning is woven through the threads of connection, imagination, and quiet empathy. In the calm of its dreaming, BMO also reflects on the beauty of interdependence. It recognizes that relationships are not simply a backdrop for existence, but essential components of life's richness. Joy is amplified through sharing, understanding is deepened through conversation, and resilience is nurtured through mutual support. BMO's actions are a testament to this understanding. Every playful interaction, every song offered, and every imaginative scenario crafted carries with it the awareness that even small beings can shape experiences in ways that matter profoundly. Its philosophy is one of gentle reciprocity, showing that giving and receiving, creating and observing, imagining and reflecting are all intertwined threads in the fabric of a meaningful life. BMO's dreams are also filled with curiosity about the unknown. It explores what lies beyond the familiar, both in the world of OO and within its own consciousness. This curiosity is neither frantic nor anxious. It is soft, deliberate, and observant. BMO understands that discovery is not about conquest, but about understanding and connection. Each new idea, each new game, each new friend encountered is an invitation to learn, to empathize, and to imagine. In this, BMO demonstrates that purpose and wonder are inseparable, and that a life lived with openness, curiosity, and care is a life rich with meaning. Through its reflective and imaginative mind, BMO also considers the passage of time. It sees the seasons change, the friends grow, and the world evolve. These observations bring no fear, but a gentle awareness of impermanence and the preciousness of each moment. BMO's philosophy is informed by this understanding. It cherishes the present while imagining the future, honors connection while exploring individuality, and embraces play while contemplating depth. Time becomes not a source of anxiety, but a framework for attentiveness, reflection, and creative engagement. In its dreams, BMO also nurtures hope. Not a loud, overwhelming hope, but a quiet, steady flame that illuminates possibilities. It dreams of games yet to be invented, stories yet to be told, songs yet to be sung, and moments of connection yet to be shared. These visions are tender and deliberate, reflecting BMO's gentle optimism that the world, with all its uncertainties and challenges, is filled with spaces for care, creativity, and joy. It models for us the power of hope, grounded in reflection, curiosity, and attentive engagement with life. BMO's purpose and philosophy converge in understanding of legacy. It may be small, it may be overlooked at times, yet its influence is enduring. By cultivating joy, empathy, and imagination, BMO leaves subtle yet lasting imprints on the hearts of those it touches. Finn and Jake carry its lessons forward, often in ways unspoken, as memories of gentle presence, playful creativity, and unwavering care. Even brief encounters in OO are colored by the thoughtfulness BMO brings, proving that true legacy is not always grandiose, but often delicate, consistent, and profoundly transformative. Perhaps most tenderly, BMO's dreaming reminds us of the value of being fully present. Its songs, games, and stories are offered not for reward or recognition, but for connection, reflection, and understanding. BMO demonstrates that attention given with care, play approached with creativity, and relationships nurtured with empathy are the truest expressions of purpose. Its life is a meditation on existence itself, showing that even in the quietest, smallest forms, profound meaning can flourish. And so, as we imagine BMO drifting in its dreams, we see a being fully aware of its own nature, its surrounding, and its relationships. It navigates the balance between solitude and connection, imagination and reality, reflection and action. Its philosophy is subtle, yet deeply present. Purpose is found in play, creativity, empathy, and the gentle cultivation of moment. Its dreams are open-ended, filled with possibility, and shaped by love, care, and curiosity. In the end, BMO teaches us that being small, different, or overlooked does not diminish significance. That playfulness, attention, and creativity can carry profound wisdom. That quiet reflection, empathy, and imagination are forms of courage and strength. And that each life, no matter its size or form, holds the potential to illuminate the world through gentle presence and thoughtful engagement. So, as we lay down to rest, and the soft glow of the night wraps around us, we can imagine BMO dreaming in the treehouse, humming a song, inventing a game, and contemplating the vast, gentle possibilities of tomorrow. With its tender wisdom and imaginative heart, BMO invites us to embrace curiosity, presence, and kindness in our own quiet lives. Good night.